Okay, today doing one on Dentron. Dentron radio made a lot of amplifier and other ham related components. Couldn't find any information on when they started exactly, but it was somewhere around 1970. If somebody has some factual information on that, they can send it to me and I can post that. But anyway, they went out of business in 1980. But when they went out of business, the owner and the people basically kind of split into two companies, Amp Supply. And Amp Supply made some decent amps for a while, and then Amp Supply went out of business. And also, they went to some of them, the owners, people, money, investors went to Ameritron. And Ameritron, made some even better amps. They improved on the Dentron design, and I guess they had money problems, and they got acquired by MFJ. And MFJ improved on the design some more, and MFJ makes they made Ameritron amps for a while, and now I think they make put their brand on them, made more improvements, and make MFJ amplifiers, which were originally Ameritron. And if you go back, they were kind of Dentron, kind of, sort of, but not exactly. But anyway, that's a little bit of Dentron history. They went out of business in 1980. They made quite a few amps. They made a 4 sweep tube amp using 6LQ6s, which I don't have one exactly, but it was similar to this Swan amp here. That's a 4 sweep tube amp. And it used your old 6LQ6 sweep tubes like this one. And Dentron also made a few different 572B amps. They made this one with what's called a 160-10L, which used 4 572Bs. Decent amp. It's hard to mess up a grounded grid 572B amp, but Dentron had their problems, manufacturing problems and cheap parts. Basically, Dentron used a pretty good transformer, and that's a real good transformer for 572Bs, nice size plate transformer, and nice tubes there. But one thing Dentron did was they overvolted the filaments. And the filaments, heat up the cathode and it releases electrons. And when Dentron overvolted the filaments, it would push out a lot more electrons than the tube, than would last a long while. It's like lighting a fire a little bit too hot. You're going to have a lot of heat. They would produce more power, per tube and per all that with the filaments overvolted, but the tubes won't last long at all. And Dentrons were known for tube eaters for that reason and other reasons too. Most Dentron amps, very few, but most did not have a tuned input on them. They had 3 versions of their sweep tube amp. And the original version did not have a tuned input. And in their second version, they came with the tuned input, but they didn't put any bias on the tubes, even in standby. So if you turn that thing on, even in standby, unkeyed, it was cooking the tubes. So they came out with a third version that they added bias to it and all that. But after they came out with the third one, they pretty much went out of business. So it's very hard to find that version. And they made a few others, but they had the 10L with the 4 572Bs. And then they came out with the Scimitar Clipperton amplifier here, which also has 4 572Bs, but they came out this because they shrunk it down a little bit, especially the height. But what they did on this one, they mounted the 572Bs horizontal or sideways instead of standing up like this one because of the height. You see these tubes almost go to the floor, so you need the height. of the case of this amplifier for that. But you know, hams wanted to go portable, and we're doing expeditions, and there was a big Clipperton expedition, that's where the name comes, with hams, that was going on when they came out with this. So they made this nice, you know, compact, shrunk down, you know, as opposed to the 16010L, and they mounted the tubes horizontally or sideways, which is fine because 572Bs here, come on, don't roll off the thing, my other tube, there we go, are made to be mounted horizontally. But maybe 10 years ago, I didn't know this. Somebody said, well, Dentron is stupid. They made the tubes horizontally, but they didn't mount them correctly. They mounted them upside down horizontally. And whoever told me that, you know, I don't know if it was on the internet or blog or what. First, I thought it was one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. But of course, I like to read. I like to look things up. I don't take things at face value, so I looked it up, and sure enough, when the Clipperton made this amplifier, when Dentron made this Clipperton amplifier, well, I'm getting tongue-tied, they mounted the tubes upside down, basically horizontally. You know, I don't know which way they were supposed to be mounted, you know, with the which pin's supposed to be up, or, you know, whatever. Don't remember that, because, you know, that's not something that I took to memory. But I do know that when Dentron made this amplifier and shrunk it down and mounted the tubes this way, they put them in upside down. So they had problems with that. You know, again, Dentron had a lot of problems with their amps. Dentron made the MLA 2500 series here. This is a MLA 2500. That's the MLA 2500B. And they used a very hard to find tube. Even at the time, Dentron was one of the only amplifier companies using the, I think it was 8875. Oh, here we got one. So it's an 8875, and it's basically like a 3CX400. 3CX meaning triode. It's not turbocharged, but it is compact and high gain for a triode tube. But the thing on this tube is basically the cooling. You can use a fan, a regular fan. It's not forced air, you know, where you're blowing the air up from underneath and through the fins on there. This one is made to use a fan, and you just use a fan to blow the air across the tube. Again, people ask me, why do people do stuff? It's cost. It's cheaper to, you know, make a tube where you can just stick a fan on it, like this 8875 here. And tubes weren't, you know, hard to find in Sky High at the time. Then build an amp where you have to use a blower and a sealed chamber underneath, and move the air from underneath, you know, up through the tubes. And again, Dentron, you know, had shrunk down the sides. And if you're going to make an air chamber and all that underneath and a blower, now you got, you know, more components and more sides to deal with, because you got to have the chamber underneath, the sealed chamber, and the blower on the back for the air to blow through that and up through the tubes. And you see here, I got this one out, but this is a 2-tuber. They did make a 1-tuber version of this, and the box fan on the back blows air through the tubes. And by the way, Dentron, being cheap again, with their biggest amp, which I don't have one, I sold the one I had, a Dentron DTR 2000L, used the 8877, aka 3CX 1500 tube, and they used a fan like that to blow air with the 8877 tube. And they used the sealed chamber and all that, but a fan instead of a blower. Like I say, Dentron did some funky things. And, you know, this is the MLA 2500 again with two of these 8875s, aka 3CX 400s, with the fan type fin on it. That's a pretty good darn transformer. I think that transformer is bigger than the Heathkit SB220, you know, transformer. You know, nice size transformer. I took the power supply caps out of this because I'm going to recap it. I got the stuff ordered, but haven't got the board and the caps in yet. And, you know, doing this demo before I actually get these two working. That one had some other problems. It's missing the Zeners. But anyway, I saw this, you know, reading and looking up stuff on the net and literature and all that, and people say this amp, this MLA 2500 here, is known to have parasitic and bad VHF oscillations, even when it's not supposed to. It'll start oscillating itself and drive itself crazy and blow up. And they say the reason for that is bad design. That the length of the output circuit is just too long. And if you look at it, you know, here's the plate choke, your parasitic chokes, you know, right next to the tubes. That's cool. And by the way, these amps are off and uncharged and haven't been plugged in. Actually, I don't think I plugged them in yet, you know, since I got them from Dayton last year. And this one doesn't have the power supply in it. So I'm saying that don't do this at home by sticking your fingers and stuff. It's just these amps have not been plugged in yet in a year, and I've already took the power supply out of it, so I'm safe, you know, doing that by sticking my finger in here. But don't do that at home. Not a good idea. Don't want you to kill yourself. I think these run on 2200 volts. It will kill you. But anyway, the tubes, you know, parasitic, you got your choke right there. That's all in good proximity, you know, nice close to each other, right? But the line that goes under this plate output coil and next to this plate coil or tank coil through your blocking cap and all the way over here to the tune cap. So your output goes, you know, through that line there, into that and into that. That's a good, what, 6, 7, 8 inches? Plus, it's right next to your tank coils, right next to both of them. And I always talk about plank coils, how many windings you need. Here's your tune cap. This is where it comes in from the tubes, and this is where it goes out at. And by the way, I had a question, I think here on YouTube, asking me which is the input and which is the output to these air variables. They're both the same. They're tied together in parallel. There is no input and output. They are the same. You can put, you know, both on this side, both on that side, or one on this side, one on that side, or switch them around. It doesn't matter. They're both tied together. They're the same. Actually, you can look at the plates here. You know, one that goes to there, one that goes to there. There is no in and out. They're both the same. But anyway, the way this is hooked to, it does come into this one. And then here's the coil out of that one, even though it's the same, you know, potential. You can actually, on a lot of amps that I do, I hook them both on the same tap. That way it doesn't have to go through the cap and make it a longer path, right? So the path of this is, you know, from the tubes, through your blocking cap, through here, into your tank coil. And if you could see that first tap of that coil, it goes underneath, but it's about 3 turns or so where that tap goes to. That's your 10 meter cap. And then that's your 15 meter tap. And, you know, 20, 40, and then 80 meters just connected permanently right over here, which is another problem, I think, because even when you have the band switch on the 10 meter, which is basically connecting that through the band switch to the coil over here, this is still connected. So you still got, you know, harmonics and inductance, stray inductances, I guess is a better word, you know, going into this. It's connected permanently all the time. But anyway, back to the path again, you know, through there, through here, through your thing, into your band switch, which is way over here, and then out the band switch into this tap of the load cap. That's your load capacitor, and then, you know, out, and then that's connected, and then over here to the relay. That's a long path, you know, here, around, through there, underneath, through the band switch, around, and then out through here. And that's what the hams are talking about. That's a lot of stray capacitance, and well, inductance and capacitance going around. And another problem they have is on this amp, they use a pretty small load capacitor, right? It doesn't have enough capacitance for the job to do everything. So what they did again, they got this fixed cap, a little 100 picofarad, in permanently. That's wired, you know, from the output straight to ground. That's in there permanently. And then it has a bunch of other ones switched in. You know, 2 right there, 3rd one under there, and there are a couple more hiding. Oh, there are about 4. If you can see them, you know, under here, 1, 2, and then they go underneath all that. And you see all the wires to the taps that go to the band switch. And this is a dual band switch. One switch switches all the taps for the coil, and the other switch switches all them extra capacitors in. So you have all them capacitors and wiring and all that laying around, whether it's in circuit or not, but you're going to have straight capacitance and straight inductance laying around, and they say that's why this one will take off and to go into VHF oscillation. Plus, even on this one, Dentron juiced up the filaments, so the tubes, it's like turning up the fire. You know, they put out, but they don't last no time, even if it's working and doesn't have the VHF parasitic oscillations, because it's juiced up and they turn up the filament for the tubes on these. And by the way, these tubes, these 8875, are pretty much unobtainium. If you find them, they probably go for about $7.50 a piece, if you can find them. I doubt if mine are good. And these amps, again, I bought them at Dayton last year, both of them, same guy. If they are, I got very, very lucky. But what most people do, once the tubes go bad, soft, or, you know, no output, or short, or just done, they convert these to something else. 4CX400 is was the tube of choice, but it's getting so the 4CX400 is hard to get. And some are even going to the single 4CX800 with this amp, but that's a lot of work to, you know, do the converting. Especially, you know, it's in a small size and everything's compact, which is what Dentron was doing, because, you know, you got a compact amplifier, and the way they juiced it up and all, you know, big transformer and juiced up the filaments, it does a lot of watts. You can get the watts out of these things. And they did the same with the Dentron DTR 2000L with the 8877. You know, nice small size, wasn't super heavy duty or nothing, but it would do the watts. But dependability, not really known by Dentron. And again, on this amp, there's no tune input, right? On this amp, there's no tuned input. On that Clipperton L, there is no tuned input. Just basically a power supply and tubes and the components for a tank circuit, and, you know, make it do what it do. And Dentron did some other funky stuff with biases and switching and all that other stuff. And, you know, they had a lot of returns when they were, you know, had warranty and manufacturers. And then even when they went to amp supply, you know, when I wouldn't call it a merge or anything, but a lot of the designs and people went to amp supply, they had some of the same problems. And at first, even the Ameritrons, because it was kind of based on the same design with the same people, they had problems too. But over years, Ameritron kind of straightened theirs out, and amp supply did not. And all the stuff to their Ameritrons, which went to MFJ, you know, bought them out, and MFJ got, you know, gobs of money because they make a whole ton of other stuff. So MFJ kind of got them straight with the later Ameritron and now MFJ amps. But anyway, that's my little history today on Dentron amplifiers. They do the watts, but they're not made to last long. But if you're going to mod them just for a single band, let's say 10 meter, 12 meter, you can do mods and make them a much more better and dependable amplifier. However, some people don't believe in mods. I do if they done right. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. Bye.